back to Vizaural Music, the music podcast. We talk about tracks we found on Bandcamp, on SoundCloud, and were sent in by listeners just like you. You could always send us your music, and chances are we're going to talk about it if you send it in. You can send it to vizauralmusic@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter. We have a YouTube page as well where we put these up as video versions, so we do some reviews and stuff like that. But you can find us basically anywhere you are able to use a Google thingy-madura. Anyway, my name is Ryan. I'm joined by Craig today.
Hello.
And On How actually is right now in line to see the new Star Wars movie. And while we're recording this, it's about, 10 days away? It's on the 20th. It's about 5 days away. So he's going to be there really
close,
early.
Yeah.
So
you nailed the math on that one.
I had to open up a calendar to check. So he's a big fan. Don't listen to what he said in previous episodes about not being interested in the film, because he was willing to give up 5 days of work to just sit in line at the theater to get a ticket that he really could have just got online right now. In the modern era, we don't have to do that. But he's that committed. He wants to relive what we did back for the Phantom Menace. So, I have a lot of respect for him for that. But he actually called in a favor. He brought in a third host for this week. And here he is. George Lucas, come on in.
Oh, hey guys. Oh, great. I'm so happy to come in and talk about these tunes with you. Arnold said that he didn't like these new movies, and I said, hey, you gotta go, and you really gotta buy a ticket, because I still get some residual pay, and I gotta buy a new yacht. So thanks for having me.
Oh, no worries, George. I'm really interested to see what you think about these tunes. How about you, Craig? Are you interested to hear what George Lucas has to say about all these songs?
I'm just more interested in why George Lucas kind of sounds like Kermit the Frog.
Hey, I have this big waddle under my neck, and it's changed the way I've talked over the years, so this is just how I talk, okay? You have a problem with that, Craig Campbell?
No, that makes perfect sense, actually.
Oh, good. Yeah, great.
All right, well, if you are new to our show, we basically just dig through Bandcamp. We find some tracks, we talk about them, we try to share them with you, and hopefully you get turned on to some new tunes. But what's been happening in your life, Craig?
Well, for the first time ever, I'm talking to George Lucas right now, which is kind of cool. It's a little bit of an honor, and I'm thankful that you explained to him the show premise.
Yeah.
Besides that, I don't know. We had our first snowstorm the other week. Got 1.5 feet of snow. That was fun. And then I bought a snowblower after we got all that snow, and I had to shovel for like 5 hours. So it's probably never going to snow here again. And got to do what you got to do, though.
Well, George and I, we live in Northern California. I live in Sonoma. He lives in Marin County. And so we're not really used to snow. So both of us are just laughing our asses off because, there's a slight amount of ice on cars outside. But it's beautiful. I can probably just go ride my bike later today.
Maybe I'm going to ride my bike later today.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I could ride my bike too. My bike costs about $5,000, but, in your face, guys.
Thanks, George. All right, let's get to...
I just can't wait for that wealth tax to kick in.
Oh, well, I'm not going to be backing any of those guys. I'm making sure that we get a really great candidate like Bloomberg. He's just like me. He's risen to the top with some great ideas and really just used other people's labor to, get all that money. And then I sold all my rights to those white slavers in Disney, but, I'm still making money, so it's great.
Yeah, isn't capitalism a wonderful system?
It really is. Thanks, guys.
All right, well, on that note, George...
Hey, George, just that was sarcasm, you fat piece of shit.
Oh, I see. I don't get sarcasm. I'm very literal with all my writing, as you've seen in my amazing scripts, like The Phantom Menace.
You don't get writing either, or plot, or pacing.
No. But I don't have to. I'm George Lucas, you piece of shit.
That's true. You write movies for children, and adult baby men cry about them.
Well, and kids, they love long conversations in Senate halls about taxes and trade federations, so I thought that would be a great idea for a movie. Disney didn't agree. I just don't get why.
George, your voice keeps changing throughout the course of this. I'm a little worried that maybe you're having a stroke of some kind. So we better get to some of these songs here, and we'll hear what you think about them. You ready for this, Craig?
No.
Okay, yeah, you are. Let's hear from our very first track. This is a Santa Rosa band that I saw recently, a band by the name of Coffin Hunters, with their song Hell Sleeps in Paradise. like I said, I found this. I actually saw these guys two weekends ago. They played at a local brewery here, Cooperage Brewery. Awesome stuff. I mean, this is the kind of metal that I really like. Very new wave heavy metal stuff from the 80s. You can tell these guys have definitely listened to Iron Maiden before. It just had really awesome energy. You know, they looked the part. They got the long hair. The singers, you know, pumping towards the sky. It's really good stuff, and I'm glad that it's coming out of Santa Rosa. We seem to be having a pretty good kind of metal revival in this area. In fact, there was a pretty good metal show just last night that we dropped into at Three Disciples. But what do you think of this, Greg?
You know, I love that this felt like a combination of tongue-in-cheek, taking the piss out of 80s metal, and also showing just perfect reverence to the style at the same time. They really nailed what they wanted to, and you do have a fun little music scene out there in Santa Rosa for the most part, except some of the shit that you chose. But I think you're right. All the metal and heavier stuff that you played from there has been quite excellent.
Yeah, how about you, George?
You know, this kind of reminds me of my great film, Willow, because, you know, in Willow, they had to go on a great adventure, and they learned to love themselves. And I feel that this song, it really is about learning to love yourself with Hell Sleeping in Paradise.
That's a really insightful take, George. I also love Willow. I don't see the connection to this specific song, but it's just you guys sometimes got to read the subtext. I'm not good at writing subtext, but it's there if you spend enough
You're
time
not good
on
at
Reddit.
writing text either.
Well, but I'm rich, so fuck you.
I will say I had no idea that Willow was a George Lucas joint.
I don't know if he wrote it or directed it, but he somehow was involved in the same way that he was somehow involved with the Indiana Jones stuff, even though that was Spielberg stuff. So,
was he just a fat rich producer that just gave them money to make more money and had no actual real creative input into the process? But he takes all the credit for it doing good.
I had some great ideas. People really love the crystal skulls, and that was really my idea. This thing about what if Indiana Jones got in a refrigerator? Have we seen that before? The answer is no, and that's why it was a huge hit, and everyone loved it. They loved it, right?
George, do you read reviews of the projects that you're involved in?
No, I don't have to do that. I do have someone summarize it for me and take out any words I dislike and replace them with amazing, brilliant, genius.
That's a smart idea.
So in other words,
I should do that.
your reviews just sound like amazing, 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 brilliant, amazing, and brilliant.
Yeah, I don't have anyone in my life who's going to ever challenge me, because if they do, I have them buried out in the Nevada desert.
Like the E.T. video game.
Yes. In fact, I have the remaining copies. I'll sell them on eBay.
That's amazing, George. This is really good stuff. I mean, we're getting a lot. This is, the kind of stuff that I'm sure is going to be shared all over the media pretty soon. We're getting some key details.
God, I hate this so much.
Yeah, but anyway, this is a good band. I recommend checking them out. This just came out, they have a CD. I was like, wow, a CD instead of a cassette or vinyl at this point, but they're playing around this area. I'm sure they're going to be doing some tours and doing all that, so check them out, especially if you like that kind of era of heavy metal. It's good stuff.
How old were the band members? Is this another high school band, or I'm assuming since there's a brewery, older guys?
Well, it was a brewery, but it was an all ages show. It's actually a lot of the breweries here they're always all ages shows, and they were free. It was packed. I was really surprised. In fact, well, the bands the guys in the bands are definitely a little bit older, because I could tell some of them had spouses and kids there that were older than my kids. So, but I would say these guys seem to be about my age, mid 30s or late 20s, something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense for what they're playing and how they pulled it off.
That was good stuff. Let's get to our next track here. We're getting out of Santa Rosa. We're going to Montreal, somewhere that's a lot colder. This is an individual, a single musician by the name of Reenz, with his track Rhythm of the Clock.
I'm always late. I'm running late now. I'm always late. I'm always late. Even when I try to be invincible, there's always something that happens as soon as I'm trying to be somewhere in time. Already can win. There's always a problem when there's
So I found this one, and I've been on a big Prince kick recently. Ever since the Prince catalog was put onto Spotify, I'm like, oh sweet, now I can just like go through every morning when I'm going to work or traveling somewhere. I'm just listening to one of his records. There's so much in the way of the Prince catalog that I never really heard. Like I probably have like 6 or 7 records in my collection, and I just listen to those. But there was so much stuff available, and I know that he has a big vault of tracks that they've been teasing about kind of releasing. In fact, I think just recently they put out some kind of lo-fi early recordings of some stuff. But there's a whole lot of stuff that I'm sure, as that family wants to make some money off of poor dead Prince, that they're going to be putting out. And I just thought that this track had a lot of kind of similar vibe to it. It's a very laid-back kind of pop music, but it's a little bit creative and interesting in some of the instrumentation and the vocals. So I dug it. I'm hoping you like it too, Craig. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know if it just wasn't in the right headspace. I didn't really get much of Prince from this. I will like. It's one of those things where it was a good song. There's nothing wrong with it, but beyond, it just was kind of there in a way. It wasn't your greatest pick. There wasn't anything in there that really like hooked me to wanting to listen to more of it. But I don't know. It was just. It was like a George Lucas movie. It was there that while you're listening to it or while you're watching, I was like, yeah, this is an enjoyable ride. And then it was over, and you're like, I just forgot everything that just happened because if I think about it too much, everything will fall apart.
No, I think this song is very, very similar to my movies in that it'll stand the test of time. I'm sure they could package this into action figures and sell millions of dollars, because that's how most people do business, right? You just got to take what you're doing and you got to make it into plastic and you got to force it down little kids' mouths. That's just what you got to do. Right, Craig?
Yeah, I guess so. Like, so let's say you were going to re-release a special edition of this song.
Oh, good idea. That's great.
Yeah, what would you add? What would you add to this to make it even worse?
I think it needs some dewbacks in the background. It's maybe it doesn't work for music. I don't know, but I think that you just need more things cramming it up. Like maybe they have a 48-piece orchestra that just is like tuning in the background. Good idea, right? I need my residuals.
George, you are full of insight. I'm learning so much about the business world from you. I am looking forward to indie rock bands turning to action figures to supplement their income, because they surely as hell aren't going to do it by their music.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's honestly not a terrible idea.
No, it's not.
So,
I'm actually thinking like Fugazi action figures. What an amazing idea.
Exactly.
Let's go ahead and get to our next song here. This is from Saskatchewan. I think that's how you pronounce that, right? Saskatchewan.
Keep going. Try a couple more times.
Twice is enough. It's
right.
a band called Mehta with Can Hardly. Just a random find of mine. I was just like, okay, let's find something that just came out that no one has bought so far, or it doesn't seem to have a following here on Bandcamp. But I really like this track. I really felt that the first half of it was just more kind of just some traditional electro or electronic dance music, and then in the second half, when the kind of really pitch shift synth line comes in, that's when it got interesting. I thought, there's some creative ideas here. There's something I want to dig into and take a look at some of this guy's other music. What do you think, Greg? Greg?
Oh, sorry, I lost you a little bit.
Oh,
so
what do you think?
I guess I I missed some of the praise that you're giving that I am not going to give this track. Now, all right, you know me. I love repetitive, recursive music as much as the next annoying old hipster. But if it's faster than like 80 beats per minute, that's just too fast for this type of shit.
What? That's the right kind of speed.
It's got to be slow and plodding, and there's got to be like 2 notes over the first like 12 minutes.
This explains a lot of your picks for the next episode. This
It sure does. I think a lot of those were a direct answer to this. I don't know, like I never really got into the whole techno house like thing. Like I think the closest I was really into with that stuff was like trip hop, which had a little more going on in it, production wise and like musically. But yeah, I mean, I get your point that it was better on the back end, but I don't know, man. It just didn't do it for me, and I hate you.
Well, I mean,
not for picking this song. I just generally I haven't said that in a while. So
well, that's true. Get that off my chest. More. I mean, you're not a dumb person, but what is it with you needing everything to be so much slower? As you get older, are you just not able to comprehend music that is, slightly quicker? Is your brain just, so clogged up with Twitter and Reddit things that are going on that you just can't process faster tunes?
I think actually that's not a terrible hypothesis. No, like I guess as you age, time does seem to go faster because a single day in your life is such a small percentage of your life preceding it, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So you perceive time as going much faster, and just a race to the grave basically once you hit a certain age. And I think a slower, more plodding type of music, it just helps. At least it helps me kind of. It does help me unwind and kind of unplug from, 140 or 280 characters that barrage your sensibilities every day. I mean, it's self-imposed. I could just not go on those hellscape websites that just make me feel awful.
Yeah, Craig. You really shouldn't go on those. And I could tell you, I like this idea of just really extending something, slowing it down, because my first draft for Attack of the Clones, it was going to be a 38-hour movie. I really wanted to dig in to midichlorians and just talk about the science, because kids want to know about midichlorians. Isn't that right, Craig?
Sure, and have like at least 20 of those hours just following Jar Jar Binks around.
Oh, like he was the character that was going to put it all together. I don't understand why people didn't like my racist Jamaican rabbit monster. Why, Craig? Why didn't they like it?
For you. Was Jar Jar did he eventually was he Force sensitive? Was he a Jedi at some point?
You would have found out in my new trilogy, which I'm still writing. I might put it out under a different name. Instead of Star Wars, it would be called Star Traveling. It's going to come out pretty soon. I'm going to self-fund it. It's going to be great. Those white slavers in Disney can't touch this.
And instead of being written by George Lucas, it'll be written by Lord Gookus.
That's a great idea. Don't take that idea. In fact, I've now copyrighted already before you could even finish saying it. I'm that powerful with my lawyers. Wow, George, you're teaching us a lot about business, and I'm glad that I have you on here. But what did you think of this track, George? Could you see this in one of your movies? Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it could be maybe in the background of some cantina. I'm cramming a bunch of crap on the screen, like 8 dewbacks in the cantina. Do dewbacks drink booze? I think they do. Put them in the cantina, and this will just be in the background. It'd be great. Well, there you go. Well, Mehta, you can probably get this song, send it to Lucasfilm, although they have no say over Star Wars anymore. They are going to put out some films called Star Travel, so maybe get it in there.
God damn it.
Let's actually get to a song which might be very much about traveling through space. This is a track by a band from the 60s called the Soup Greens with That's Too Bad.
Well, that's too bad. Was a dirty before. Another who's his blind.
find is you. So girls, listen to me, I'm just out to get you.
That's too bad.
Okay, we gotta talk about the song, but then I gotta talk about some of the stuff behind this song. So this is it. We talk about like 60s garage rock, a band kind of trying out that style. This is actually from the 60s as far as I can tell. This was just some, small little band, had this promotional little 7-inch, and, then like many bands from that era, just faded away. They never really made an impact. But what did you think of the song?
Are you talking to me or George?
Yes. Oh, so yeah, George, he had to go get something to drink. He had that
Oh,
big waddle under his neck. It needed to be refilled.
It was getting dried out, thank God. No, like you were saying, at first I was like, holy shit, they really nailed that 60s pop psychedelia sound more than anything. And then I noticed it was released in 1965. And like you, I couldn't tell if it was a bit or not. I would say like this, I mean, obviously this would be like a great track for like one of those nugget types of compilations, just with all of those basically one hit or I guess no hit wonders from back in the day. But like, there's something about it that I would not want an entire album from this band, but like intermingled with a bunch of other similar tracks. I think it's great. It was a fun little bop, and yeah, I dug it. Even though, like you said, it may have been recorded this year, and it's just a larf, but it's a good larf if it is, and it's a good track if it isn't. So
I mean, those Nugget box sets are great because, like I think you said, a lot of these bands, they really didn't have an output that justified a whole LP or, to dig into a lot of the music. They came out with like, a couple of songs. They were great singles bands. And I like that they lived in an era where that could happen and, that was an acceptable thing. But this song, to get into a little, I think behind the scenes of this is, I think a man by the name of Lenny Matlin was a musician in this band. The reason I think that is because when I went to his Bandcamp page where I found this song, it's not the Soup Greens. That's not what the Bandcamp page is. It's his page, Lenny Matlin. He's an older guy. He's a California guy. I know he's a musician, and he's been in a lot of bands, so I just have to believe this was his group. But more importantly, this guy is into all kinds of crazy conspiracies. In fact, the link on his Bandcamp page goes to his Amazon page of all these ebooks that he wrote. And let me just read a couple of them for you. One of them is Top Secret, The Fabulous Flying Battalions and the True Origin of World War II. And here's another one. Disclosure. Is this the first ET interview? And then my favorite, Abbott and Costello go to court.
wait, what?
Yeah, that last one is a comedy book, so it's not a conspiracy at all. But the other, I mean, he has all of these different kind of like conspiracy-minded books, plus it seems like books about some, 60s kind of pseudo Indian guru type people, and I just thought, wow, what an odd guy. And the fact that his Bandcamp page is just kind of made up of, here's my new age spiritual music, which is like synthesizer gobbledygook, and here's a song that apparently I was part of in the 1960s. I just think it's brilliant.
Yeah, I actually might have to check out that World War II book. Sounds pretty damn good.
Well, it's only $1 on Amazon, so
That's a little too expensive for my taste.
I'm sure it's full of billions of typos and run-on sentences and all kinds of conjecture that it's going to make absolutely no sense.
Probably some racism too.
I actually made a really great World War II movie. Did you guys see Red Tails? Craig, did you see it?
I have no idea what you're talking about, Mr. Lucas.
Well, it was the very first movie to have an African-American cast, and I made it in 2012. Can you believe that?
That doesn't sound right,
cannot
George. That doesn't compute. I'm pretty sure there was African Americans in movies before you.
No, pretty sure there wasn't, because as far as I know, it was the very first time that we ever talked about, contributions of the African American community, and it took someone as brilliant as me, George Lucas, to really fight against the white slavers in Hollywood and make a movie that just celebrated them.
I mean, George, I saw that movie. I wouldn't say it really celebrated the Tuskegee Airmen. It really was kind of like schlock shit. Like you'd think something that important in our history, you'd want to have, someone more like a Spielberg or, like a Saving Private Ryan kind of film involved.
Oh, no, those kind of films, no one wants to go see those. They want to see people doing little quips and, they want to have racist caricatures of both the good guys and the bad guys. That's what America needs. That's how we need to heal.
Are you both sides and shit right now, George Lucas?
No, I'm telling you how it is, Craig, you piece of shit.
God damn it, you son of a fuck.
George, you seem really angry at Craig. What is that about?
Well, I was invited on this show to really bring my insight about music, and this Craig guy just keeps putting me down, I'm sensitive too, Craig, I don't read Reddit like you, but, I know when someone's talking down to me. Just because I'm rich and I can destroy you at any time doesn't mean I don't have feelings.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what it means, and that's why you are rich and have way too much money, is because you're a psychopath and a sociopath.
Oh, that
and
is
you
true.
have no empathy for your fellow, for mankind or humans, and you could solve so many of the world's problems with just a small percentage of your fortune, but yet you don't. So
to be fair to George,
fuck.
to be fair, he did do something which is great trolling in Marin County when he wanted to expand, whatever Skywalker Ranch, whatever it is over there. Well, if you've ever been to Marin County, it's generally a lot of not in my neighborhood rich people, and so that's why it's so hard to build public transportation or high density housing, because everyone's like, nope, I have my nice little ranch and I don't want anyone to move in. But George Lucas, he's a fellow rich guy, and he wanted to expand his farm, and they basically stopped him from doing that. So he decided he was just going to donate the land and build low income housing, which was probably going to really piss off the people there. So I appreciate that, George.
Oh, thanks. I help the fellow man when it's out of spite. It's my favorite way to help.
That's great, George. Really great.
That's exactly what a sociopath would say.
Let's get to our next track here. This is from Weege and the Wondertwins with her track Always.
Standing on the corner, tears down my face. I love you now, I love you then, I love you always. I should have spoken out sooner. Oh, what have I done? I should have been truer, but I was just too young. You left with no goodbye. I pretend not to notice. You haven't, and I won't lie. I do my best to go about my days.
So this is a submission of sorts. It didn't come exactly from this band, but it did come from a band we've talked about a couple times before, Krista Joy, doing some alt country stuff, and she sent this along saying, hey, this is someone that plays in my band, take a look at it, and I'm glad we did, because this is pretty good stuff. It's a really great vocals, very different than what you'd often hear from an alt country front woman, or I don't even know if this is alt country. It's more like kind of older rock and roll with a little more of a jazz swing to it, but just really highly accomplished, really fun stuff. It's, again, the kind of stuff that in another era there would probably be a lot more people that'd be listening to this, but now in the modern era where we're just inundated with stuff hitting us all the time, it's just like one more piece to add to that stream of information. So what'd you think of this, Greg?
Yeah, like you're saying, I really enjoyed the singer's voice. Definitely fits in with the style of music well. And I do agree. It wasn't totally alt country, more of jazz, but it did have some country western twang, and especially the drumming to me, and a lot of the rhythm section felt like it had that kind of chug-a-lug type of country feel to it, and I liked that, and it was a good mix. I will say I listened to most of the album actually, because I really dug it and just kept it playing, and I actually liked most of the other tracks more than this one. Just because I think a lot of the other stuff fell more towards the countryside. I think this one was more on their jazzy, the jazz side a little bit, and so. But this, does a great job of letting you know what they're all about from top to bottom. So if this kind of tickled your fancy, I would definitely seek out the rest of the album, because it's really nice. It's wonderful, and you didn't find it, which obviously gives it a couple of extra points. Mm-hmm. And I liked it all around. It was a nice little track in it, and it
yeah, and they're from Massachusetts, so I'm sure you could see them. Massachusetts isn't that big, right? It takes 5 minutes to drive from side to side.
Up and down, it's not so big. Side to side, it's a little longer.
All right, well, I'm sure you can still see them. It's not that far. Come on now.
No, it's really not.
Yeah, George, what did you think of this?
Yeah, it was great. I really liked it. It wouldn't fit into a Star Wars movie, sorry, but, I guess you could put it on your music player if you listen to things other than Star Wars, which I don't recommend.
Good review.
Do you have any other ideas anymore besides ruining Star Wars.
I just told you about my new film, Star Traveling. Hello?
Oh, right. There's no wars in that one. It's
there's
just people
the
flying
war
around,
is
flying around in spaceships.
Just like with Spielberg and taking out guns and putting walkie-talkies in, I'm gonna take out
Yeah.
lightsabers, and I'm just gonna put in a nice ice cream cone, and so that's what they're gonna have.
Yeah, and instead of Skywalker, it's going to be like ground crawler.
That's a great idea. I've already trademarked that. So go to hell, Craig.
Instead of Luke Skywalker, it's going to be Kale ground crawler.
Did you go to Hollywood writing school?
No, I did not, and I have no talent at all in this shit.
No,
my ideas are already better than yours.
You're
you
not
stupid
giving
fat
yourself
fuck.
enough credit here, Craig. That's just how it works. You just throw out a bunch of shit and you throw it against the wall, and then you put some special effects on it, and bam, you got yourself a movie. That's
You just have to have a ton of money to start off with, and then it's easy to make money after you have that money, right?
Yeah, I mean, you grow up in Modesto, you like driving cars around, then you meet some rich guys in Hollywood, and you say, hey, this isn't so bad. I don't know why everyone doesn't do this.
You're right, George. We really should all try that out. But speaking of things we should also try out, let's take a look at this next track. This is from a Philadelphia group called Lirra, Skirra with Ladies in the Water 2. Craig, you found this one. What's it all about?
What is it all about?
Yeah.
They're a duo, like you said, from Philly, and I just think they nail that little indie electronica genre quite well. That guitar riff that kind of pops up here and there throughout it really gets me. I like that. It's just one of those earworm riffs that, it feels like they just had that riff, but they didn't want to like expand out on it too much. They just put it behind some bleeps and blopes, and I liked it. It's like a less glitchy Postal Service, in my opinion, which I guess is just Death Cab for Cutie.
I think
it's
it's
a less
better than
glitchy
that.
Postal Service.
I mean, I like this too. I actually didn't like this track you picked as much as some of the other ones on it. Like my favorite track off this, because I listened to the whole record, was Heather's, which I thought was really good. If you're gonna have like a single song that captures what this band can do and that kind of sedated, chill, bleepity bloop vibe that you just mentioned before, I think that one captures it really well. But it's a fine track too. I just think that it might not be the one that grabs people's attention as much. Why did you pick this one as opposed to some of those other, I think, stronger pop songs?
Probably because this wasn't a pop song like the other ones, and it was a little slower and a little more subdued.
Fair enough. Hey,
I'm an idiot. No, I mean, I'm glad you listened to the rest of it, because I was gonna recommend the rest of the album, because I've listened to this quite a bit since I found them, and yeah, I dig it, and I'm really on pins and needles waiting to hear what Mr. Lucas has to say about this.
I mean, George, he just stepped out of my room. Let me go find him real quick here. Hey, George, stay out of my wallet. Yeah, stay out of that wallet. I haven't even seen the movie yet. God damn it, George. He was digging through my wallet. He was just taking money.
I wasn't taking the money. I was just, making sure it was going to be compatible with my wallet, because that's where it's going. All right?
That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's going to be mine, all of it. I mean, look at this room. This is like a man-child's room. George, come on, man. I mean,
Well, actually, I will agree with George on that one.
Hey, I have books. I mean, that's not like a man-child thing, right? Like,
you have comic books.
I have
Sorry,
real
you have
books
graphic
too.
novels.
I mean, I do have a lot of comic books. That is true. But I mean, I have books. Look, there's a book by Lenin over here, and here's another one on class structure in America.
I can stand behind those.
I mean, those still might be man-child books. I went to a Bernie Sanders event, and I was not terribly impressed with all the young people that came out. I mean, they're young people, and I'm not impressive either. But I thought you guys gotta have to put on a different public face if we're gonna get Bernie Sanders elected.
Well, I really hope he doesn't get elected, because if he does, well, out to the Nevada desert he goes.
George,
the thing is, they
really shouldn't threaten
don't need to put on
for president.
They don't need to put on a better face. They just need to come out and vote.
That is true.
Then they have to, deal with Congress fucking up the amount of places for people to vote in. Oddly enough, weird. It's just a coincidence in urban areas and centers where there's more people and more left-leaning individuals, and they just close all the polling places because they can do that now
and dismiss people off the voting rolls, just because they haven't voted in a couple elections, because maybe they didn't have someone worthy of voting for.
Or even if they have voted in the elections and bipartisan election commissions are like, no, you can't do that, and they're like, fuck you, what are you going to do about it? And they're like, yeah, you're right. We're powerless to stop you because
you're right.
we have no backbone.
You're right. There is a conspiracy, and I'm part of that conspiracy, because
we know you, rich fuck.
No. I have a much more important role to play. In fact, on voting days, we're now going to be releasing new Star Wars films. You like The Mandalorian, right, Craig? Of course you do. Everyone does. It's brilliant because it looks like Boba Fett. Well, now I'm going to be putting out a movie every single election day, and you guys are going to all go to it, and no one's going to vote, and everyone's going to keep their money in their pockets so I could take it out of their ass wallets. That's quite a plan, George. I can't believe that's going to work, but it probably would work, so... Speaking of things that do work, let's take a look at our very last track. This is from a Montreal act, Fiona Quoi, with her track 3 Days. Greg, you also found this. Tell us about it.
Yep, it's lo-fi singer-songwriter, like female-fronted stuff. It's pretty much just her guitar and occasional sounds of either the wind rushing by or tires driving down the road. And I think without those sounds that are kind of playing in the background, I don't think it would be as strong in my opinion. But with them, it just kind of feels like you're just sitting there driving down the highway, windows down, and she's just next to you playing her music in the passenger seat. And it's great. It's depressing. It's sad. It's slow. All the tracks are like that, and it's beautiful. There's
this is very much a Craig find for sure. I mean, I like it too, though. It's we used to play in bands that kind of had a similar vibe to this. That very kind of minimalist, kind of folky, depressing sound to it. But this is done very well. I really like her vocals. I like the lyrics in it as well. So it's this competent stuff. And again, another act where if she was around 20 years ago, I think there would have been more of an industry that could get behind this. I mean, there's still the record labels like Secretly Canadian. They do a lot of acts that kind of have this vibe to it. But I just think that people don't buy records, so there's fewer people who are going to pick these things up and actually give them a proper release. So chances are you're going to hear this only from this show here, unless she somehow hits it big.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a new season of one of those HBO Prestige shows coming out where they play songs like this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably.
All right. Who's coming in
so
here?
George, George, talk to your talk to your HBO buddies and have them put her on some of those shows so she gets some exposure.
Yeah,
Do some good in your life for once.
No, I'm not going to do that because, this is not jizz music. And that's really the only kind of music we need nowadays is jizz music. That's right. Yeah, see, my daughter is here. I've actually named her a Star Wars character, too. Her name's Guaglo. Because Guaglo is a good name, isn't it? It's pretty creative. I don't think anyone's done that before.
George,
No one's
you're
ever
full
said
insight.
those words, those vowels and consonant sounds together.
Yeah, that's creativity. When you just say random stuff and you just put it in it, and it's like, hey, that's great. That's so brilliant. I love it. Give me $1 million.
Do you just kind of slam your hand or your head against a keyboard and then just try and pronounce what letters pop up? And you're like, well, that's the main character of this one.
Yeah, and then I let some more talented people who actually, do design and special effects, they put it together and they take my idea that I came up with on the toilet and I just wrote down on a piece of paper. They make it a reality, and that's how creativity works, Craig, okay? You piece of shit.
Uh-huh. You're like, what if Western but space? And they're like, yeah, we can do that for
And I
you.
said, what about a diner? People like diners, but this one's got an alien.
They like diners, they like drive-ins, and they like dives, man.
On that note, let's get to our best in show. So, Craig, of all of these tracks, which is the one that you like the most?
I am going to go with the one that you said I picked the wrong track from, Lirra Skirra.
Okay, that's a good find. I'm torn between Coffin Hunters and Weege and the Wondertwins. So I'm just gonna go with Coffin Hunters just because I saw them and it's fresh in my mind. So awesome stuff.
Coffin Hunters.
That's right. All right, George, you have a best in show?
I really haven't been listening at all. In fact, at this point, I'm just massaging myself with the money I found in your ass wallet, and I'm just gonna take this and go. Okay, guys, thanks for having me. Bye.
Oh, George, he just left with my wallet. Yeah, but I guess he didn't have a best in show. Sorry.
Well, we can all agree that Best in Show is definitely not the prequels or the special editions of the original trilogy.
Yep. All right. So remember that you can always send us your music at visceralmusic@gmail.com. Go on to Twitter, go on to Facebook. You can find us there. Go on to YouTube, blah, blah, blah. And like Craig always says, if you like this podcast, you can always leave us a review at the Apple Store. Is that where they do that, Craig?
Yeah, it's no longer iTunes, right?
I don't know. I get it. They're all mixed up to me. Like, whatever.
I'm not an Apple person, so...
Yeah, just go on to Google. You can figure it out, you chodes. So, all right. Until next time.